Global National with Donna Friesen, reporting tonight from Weldon, Saskatchewan.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news after a manhunt that has loomed over this province since Sunday. Multiple sources now tell Global News the murder suspect, Myles Sanderson, who was apprehended this afternoon, has died. They believe as a result of self-inflicted injuries. He had evaded arrest for days, but was spotted this afternoon in a stolen vehicle. RCMP arrested him on a highway near Rostern, Saskatchewan, just over an hour's drive from where we are here in Weldon, Saskatchewan. And I can tell you, when news of that manhunt ending broke, there was huge relief here. Heather Yourex-West is near the site of the arrest along a highway. Heather.
Donna, we are just south of the community of Rostern, Saskatchewan, and you can see behind me a huge police presence on this highway, and you can also see in the ditch just across the highway here a 2010 white Chevy Avalanche. That was the stolen vehicle that Myles Sanderson was driving when he was taken into custody at about 3:30 this afternoon. Now, the pursuit began shortly after 2 o'clock. There was a report that Myles was driving that stolen vehicle fleeing the community of Ottawa, which is about half an hour away from here. He was armed with a knife. An emergency alert went out shortly before 3 o'clock, warning people that he had been sighted. And of course, that pursuit came here. It ended on this highway. We are told that RCMP employed something called a pit maneuver, where they actually rammed his vehicle. The vehicle spun out. They were able to take him into custody. He was taken by ambulance. And as you mentioned, multiple sources now confirming to Global News that Myles Sanderson has since died of his injuries, and we are told that those injuries are believed to be self-inflicted. So after a 3-day-long prairie-wide manhunt that had so many communities on edge, it has come to an end. The police remain here on scene. I'm sure that there is more investigative work to do, but once again, Myles Sanderson, no longer at large, was taken into custody, and multiple sources confirming to Global News that he has since died. Donna?
All right, Heather Yourex-West, thank you. We'll check back in with you in just a few minutes. A Global Saskatoon reporter, Tanner Chuby, happened to be on the highway near Rostern when the arrest of this man took place, and he saw it all go down.
We're about halfway between Hague and Rostern, and it was a hectic scene when we arrived. Looking in the ditch going towards Saskatoon, there was a white truck with airbags popped, police vehicles surrounding it, and dozens of police officers crowding the area. We saw an individual get lifted into the ambulance and was escorted back towards Saskatoon with 2 vehicles, one marked and one unmarked. Right now, traffic is backed up. It is being directed, I should say traffic heading towards Saskatoon is being redirected to a grid road to the side right now as police wait for major crimes units to come out here and provide more details.
All right, that's Global Saskatoon's Tanner Chuby. Mike Armstrong is outside RCMP headquarters in Regina tonight. Mike, what more have you learned about the operation to capture this man?
Well, we should be learning a great deal more. In about an hour, the commanding officer has just arrived here. The commanding officer of the RCMP Saskatchewan. A press conference has been called for 7:30 p.m. local time. There are going to be a lot of questions. First, how was Sanderson spotted in a stolen vehicle this afternoon? What happened there? Then the arrest itself. How was Sanderson taken down? Global News sources have said police would have rammed him from behind. But there will also be questions about Sanderson in custody. How was he treated? How was he perhaps left alone? Meantime, we are learning more also about Sanderson's past history. Global News has obtained and reviewed more court documents. They paint a very clear portrait of a man who is very often in trouble with the law and with a very violent streak. His past charges range from car theft and impaired driving to aggravated assault and the attempted murder of his father-in-law, Earl. Earl Burns was one of the victims in Sunday's attack. Now, despite that history, the parole board granted Sanderson a statutory release on his most recent sentence, letting him out early. The federal public safety minister now says the parole board will conduct a review of that decision because something very clearly went wrong. Donna?
All right, Mike Armstrong, outside RCMP headquarters in Regina. Thanks. Well, we all got an alert from the police about the arrest on our phones. And in this little village of Weldon, where one of the victims was killed, there was immediate relief. People here feared the suspect might come back. I spoke with two residents here just after that arrest.
I just got the news, the text saying they caught him. I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
Now we can get the grief process going for both communities. Now I'll get a decent sleep tonight.
It's still going to be a healing process for sure. Yeah, Wes was just a super sweet guy, and I'm sorry. It's a horrible thing now that we have to put the pieces back together, but yeah.
But at least you can rest easy.
Yes, we can breathe and move on. Yes, exactly.
We got the first detailed information today about those who were killed in the stabbings on the James Smith Cree Nation, who they were and how they're being remembered. The youngest was 23 years old, the eldest 78 years old. Among them were mothers and fathers, a community first responder, and a veteran. Why is the question everyone is asking.
How can somebody do this to women and children? Words can't express the pain that we're feeling. Trying to piece it all together.
That's Mark Arcand. His sister and his nephew were among the victims. He and other family members of those who were killed spoke publicly for the first time today. Heather Yourex-West was there. Heather, such emotion, such pain in their voices.
Yeah, I mean, he spoke for more than an hour, giving us all just an emotionally crushing glimpse into what his family has been through since Sunday morning when they lost two beloved family members, the family matriarch, Bonnie Good Voice Burns, and her 28-year-old son, Gregory, affectionately known by his nickname Jonesy.
Theirs was a family often full of laughter. Bonnie and her husband Brian, known to everyone by his nickname Buggy, built a loving home for their four sons. It's why this tragedy is so impossible to understand.
We've shed a lot of tears in the last couple of days. When I think about my sister and our nephew, our son, they were in their house. A place where we all go to sleep at night thinking we'll be safe.
The family is still trying to piece together exactly what happened, but they believe Bonnie, mother to four sons and two foster children, died trying to protect her kids. She and her oldest son were found dead outside their home, alongside Gloria Burns, the first responder who rushed to the house trying to help.
She was protecting her son. She was protecting these three little boys. This is why she's a hero.
Arcand was supported during his emotional remarks by many more members of the family, including Bonnie's husband. With the loss of his son, Father Buggy Burns still too hurt to speak publicly. The couple's three youngest sons were here too. Boys Grayson, Dayson, and Mason were all home Sunday morning when the attack happened. One of the boys was stabbed and spent a night in hospital, left now with a hurt and loss that will take much longer to heal.
These two young boys woke up to screaming, not being able to help.
A GoFundMe has been set up for Bonnie's surviving children. Arcand says his sister would have wanted to ensure her foster kids were cared for too. But Gregory, her oldest boy, could not be saved. His life over at only 28. Gregory leaves behind two children of his own, with another child on the way, a father, son, and brother, known affectionately by his nickname.
Jonesy.
Always eating.
He's always eating.
Moments of laughter are helping the family cope right now. Happy memories help hold back the anger and pain. Arcand revealing how deeply the trauma has tested him.
I've been sober for 22 years of my life. That day I wanted to turn to alcohol. I wanted to turn to it so bad that I could taste it.
Instead, he says he's turning to love for his family and the memory of his nephew and sister, honoring them in the best way he can.
We're hurting. We're broken, but we're not defeated.
Now this morning, the Saskatchewan Coroner Service and the RCMP released pictures and names of the victims. Along with Bonnie Goodvoice Burns and her son Gregory, there were 4 other members of the Burns family who died, including 66-year-old Earl, 61-year-old Lydia Gloria, 46-year-old Carol, and 23-year-old Thomas. Lana and Christian Head, aged 49 and 54, were also killed, along with 49-year-old Robert Sanderson, all of the James Cree Nation, and 78-year-old Wes Peterson of Weldon. And I will mention that, to get to this scene, you have to go from Saskatoon back to the James Smith Cree Nation. And we heard from that family earlier in Saskatoon, so that family was making their way down this highway when the news came that Myles Sanderson was caught and taken into custody. The family stopped here just to see where it happened, telling us that it brought them a little bit of closure so that they can now focus on their grief and focus on looking forward to healing. Donna?
All right, Heather, Yourex-West on the highway near Rostern, Saskatchewan. Thanks. So many people are wondering what they can do to support the victims, their families, and the communities affected by these terrible crimes. One GoFundMe campaign organized by a former MP quickly surpassed its goal of $100,000. The James Smith Cree Nation now says it's grateful to all the donors, but asks that no one else contribute. And it says it hasn't endorsed any other crowdfunding campaigns. There are others providing practical support, including a woman I met in Prince Albert who has deep ties to the families of the dead and injured.
James Smith is my community.
Dawn Robbins is executive director of a nonprofit community center in Prince Albert. Many of her relatives live on the James Smith Cree Nation.
My families are interrelated. I really had a hard time sitting at home over the weekend and having all these, emergency things pop up everywhere.
So she got to work.
Just whatever we can provide.
Soliciting donations, not cash, and shopping for food and supplies. 3 truckloads have already been sent to James Smith. But Dawn, this is personal for you because of all these interconnections.
Absolutely, and yeah, it's hard to go there right now. That's why I'm trying to keep busy and support rather than, dwell and break down.
Instead, she's delivering practical support, guided by what the community needs.
We need meats, we need soups, we need sanitizer, we need plates, cups, bowls. They've even asked for wild game.
The center's slogan is, "Together we can do so much." And that's what she's focused on right now.
We're just in different stages of grieving, whether it be anger, whether it be sadness, whether it be shock. And I think that's where I'm just kind of coming out of. But I have to do what I have to do to cope. And this is my coping mechanism, is to help.
If you'd like to donate food and other items, Dawn told me you can contact the Bernice Saiz Center in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Well, as the events of the last few days in Saskatchewan have shown, communication is vital. And after the nationwide Rogers outage this summer, the government is now promising action to ensure 911 and other communication links don't go down. As David Akin reports, Ottawa's vowing more will be done to improve the reliability of the country's wireless and internet networks.
After millions of Rogers customers went through the outage on July the 8th, the federal government gave all of the country's major telecom firms 60 days to figure out how to back each other up to provide emergency service.
The telecommunication companies complied with our request to take meaningful actions to increase and improve network reliability in our country as we requested.
The agreement they've reached runs 40 pages and has the signatures of the CEOs of 13 companies, including Bell, Rogers, Shaw, TELUS, and smaller providers like SaskTel and Xplornet.
Going forward, should one of these providers be faced with a major outage, the other companies commit to providing the support and the assistance.
They each agreed that if one network goes down, others will help maintain 911 service, emergency roaming services, and maintain bank networks businesses need to process transactions. Critics, though, remain unimpressed.
It's absolute incredible nonsense, and I'm very disappointed because it's very lackluster with the lack of enforcement, and fines and penalties for these companies that have a virtual monopoly is almost meaningless.
And who will pay for all this? Well, not the customer, Champagne says.
I'll be watching that like a hawk, but my expectation is that they carry the cost.
And that's not the end of the story. Champagne says the CRTC will soon have new rules, and the Trudeau government may soon have new regulations to force telecoms to provide more reliable service. And finally, the government plans to build out what it's calling the Public Safety Broadband Network. It will be the ultimate backstop should private networks fail in an emergency. Donna.
David Akin in Vancouver, thanks. Coming up, the Bank of Canada's key interest rate keeps climbing. Returning to our top story now, multiple sources tell Global News the murder suspect, the wanted man Myles Sanderson, has died. He was arrested earlier this afternoon near Rostern, Saskatchewan. A number of officers took Sanderson into custody alongside the highway. You can see some of the vehicles in the ditch there. This means the public safety alert that has loomed over this province for several days now has been cancelled. Turning now to the economy, it wasn't unexpected, but today's Bank of Canada interest rate hike is still unwelcome news for hundreds of thousands of Canadians. The key interest rate is now 3.25%. That's up 75 basis points. This is the fifth increase since the central bank began lifting rates from rock bottom levels in March. Canada's interest rate is now the highest it's been since 2008. We are back from Saskatchewan in just a moment. Welcome back to Weldon, Saskatchewan. This is a community in mourning, as is the James Smith Cree Nation. It's hard for people to talk about what happened, but today family members of some of the victims did. They did it to honor their loved ones. Mark Arcand says his sister and nephew died trying to save the rest of their family, and he calls them heroes.
I would never wish this on anyone. People don't realize. Maybe they have a good idea, but they don't realize the pain, the trauma, the hurt. And when I think about my sister and our nephew, our son, they were in their house. A place where we all go to sleep at night thinking we'll be safe. How can somebody do this to women and children? Words can't express the pain that we're feeling. It's probably a natural feeling for all of us to feel anger. That was my first initial thought. And it's okay to feel those feelings, but those feelings aren't going to solve anything. And when I think about what the future looks like, my sister, our family members, they'd want us to move on. They'd want us to heal, but to never forget. And to carry love in your hearts, to carry compassion, to be united, to think of other people. We've shed a lot of tears in the last couple of days. But at the end of the day, we loved our sister, Brian's wife, Chuck's daughter, our niece, our nephew, our grandson, because they loved us too. And that's what we want people to remember. As difficult as it is to not show emotion, we're hurting. We're broken, but we're not defeated.
Nothing can remove the pain, but there is help for some of those people who want to reach out. You can call the Hope for Wellness helpline. The number is 1-855-242-3310. You can also call Crisis Services Canada at 1-833-456-4566. We're back from Saskatchewan in a moment. Welcome back to Saskatchewan. We're going to go back to our top story. Multiple sources tell Global News that Myles Sanderson, the man wanted after multiple stabbings in this province, has now died. Heather Yourex-West is with us again from near the site of where Sanderson was arrested this afternoon. Heather.
Yeah, Donna, this brings to an end just an exhaustive police effort the last few days to bring this suspect into custody. There's still a heavy police presence along this highway just north of Saskatoon, south of Rostern, where we know that Myles Sanderson was taken into custody at 3:30. And then, as you mentioned, we have learned that since then he has died. This brings the total number of dead in this very tragic event to 12, 11 of them from the James Smith Cree Nation, and of course one from Weldon, Saskatchewan. So, I mean, I'm hearing very heavy hearts, some relief from some communities, but I'm also hearing that on the James Smith Cree Nation tonight, you know, people are feeling really emotionally raw with this news that the manhunt is over, but of course their grieving continues.
Heather, do we know anything about the circumstances of his death during or after that arrest?
Yeah, a lot of questions, and we know that the RCMP will be having a press conference shortly, but we have learned that it is believed that his injuries were self-inflicted and that he was taken from the scene in an ambulance. So obviously more questions will need to be answered, and we're hoping to get those questions later tonight. Donna?
All right, Heather Yourex-West near Rostern, Saskatchewan tonight. Thank you. That is Global National for this Wednesday from Saskatchewan. I am Donna Friesen. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.